Now, I want you to take a close look at this profile. Scan it real quick and tell me one thing, okay? Do you think that the guy that wrote this is neck deep in ass? Do you think that he's the kind of guy that can pick up the phone any night of the week and just have a woman come over because he's got that many of them in his life? Okay, if you said yes, you'd be dead wrong. This is exactly what you don't want your profile to look like, because it's how 99.99% of the guys present themselves on online dating sites. I want you to pay particular attention to how his tagline absolutely sucks, okay? How all of his pictures are simply face shots, okay? His About Me section reeks of insecurity if you read through it. And now I want you to promise me that you will never, ever, ever use anything that even looks close to this as your dating profile. Got it? Okay, let's move on to a better example. Now, I want you to take a look at my dating profile, because this is what we're going to be covering in detail in the next couple of minutes. Notice the difference compared to the last profile we just saw. Okay, which one is more exciting? Which one is more likely to trigger a really strong, a really positive emotion in a woman? Which do you think is more likely to make her want to reply after you send her a first email? If you guessed that my profile is better than the last one you saw, you would be 100% right. You need to think of your dating profile as the ultimate tactical tool when online dating. Okay, you only use it to generate enough interest to either get a response from her from an email you sent, or get a first email from her when she's browsing through people in her area. Okay? Everything you let her see about you needs to leverage the absolute best assets that you have to offer. I mean, at the end of the day, what I'm saying is, if you want her to be interested in you, you really need to make an effort to come off as being an interesting guy. So you might be wondering, well, how do you create this type of profile? And in fact, it's very easy. Dating sites ask you a million pieces of information about yourself, but there's really only 4 areas in a dating profile that matter. And here they are, basically in order of importance. First of all, there's your profile pic, which is most often a face shot. You want this to be clean, crisp, semi-professional. Second, there is the About Me section, where you go and you describe who you are and what you're looking for. Third, there's your secondary pictures, and most sites today let you post more than one pic. And fourth, there's your tagline. And what you want to do when creating your profile is optimize all 4 of these areas so that when women look at it, you come off as being a person that's super interesting. So what does that mean? Well, let's go through these areas one by one. First, let's talk about the profile pic. Here's an example of a good picture versus a bad picture. The good pic is classy, it's clean, it looks semi-professional, okay? And the bad picture, well, do I really need to tell you what's wrong with it? It's not exactly showing that guy at his best. So second, there's your About Me section. And when you go and when you write this one, there are really 3 areas that you want to hit. You want whatever you write about yourself to be specific, to be certain, and to be extremely confident. You cannot be wishy-washy. You want to come off as confident because you're a guy who treats online dating as a game. You're playing it for fun. You're not the guy that's desperate, just waiting for one girl to come by. You're the guy that already has plenty of girls around. Okay? This is the profile that I like to use, and I call this my rebel profile. It goes this way. Some people like to call me a rebel, but I like to think of myself as a free spirit that's simply hard to nail down. I'm known to make people do things that they've never done before. I love skydiving, speed biking, water skiing, and so on. These are all very interesting, very risky type of activities, right? And so can you spot why this is a super powerful About Me section? It's confident. It tells a story. You don't come off as a pussy who doesn't know what he wants. In the last section, where I'm talking about the type of women I'm looking for, notice how I'm phrasing things. I want a combination of Tracy Lords in the bedroom, Martha Stewart in the house, Betty Crocker in the kitchen, and so on and so forth. Any girl that reads this can identify with one of the ideal women you're talking about, one of the women you're looking for. Okay? They can identify with at least one of the requirements that you have for a partner. And the qualities that women don't have, they'll simply assume that they can still convince you that they're that special girl. Now do you get it? All of a sudden, with just a couple of lines of really clever text, you're making those girls work for your attention. Congratulations, you've become a challenge. If you use this formula, I guarantee that your results are going to hockey stick into the stratosphere. Third, we have your secondary pictures. And the worst possible secondary pictures are the ones of you alone, like we have on this first line. Secondary pictures need to be more than of just your face. You need to be doing something really interesting, something you have a passion for, because you want to communicate that to whoever's on the other end. That could be anything from riding a motorcycle to my personal favorite, pictures of me skydiving. Holding a small puppy works really, really well if you have one. One thing I love to do is to also post pictures of me with other girls and other people or at parties. Having women and people present in some of your secondary dating pictures signals that you're a guy that's really comfortable around people and around women in general. And so when she's looking at this, she's no longer picturing a boring date with a boring guy. She's thinking that you might just be a really fun guy to meet and to have a chat with. Okay? Every picture that you put up needs to communicate something about you above how you look. I've got a set of about 10 pictures that I use, and they all communicate the fact that I'm a fun, exciting guy to be with. Finally, we're going to be talking about your tagline, and I just wanted to take a minute to explain that your tagline should be one that challenges women. Okay, what you don't want here is something too common, like I'm a nice guy looking for a great girl. That's boring, everybody uses it. Okay, you don't want to be that guy. Your tagline needs to be calling her with one phrase. It just needs to add to the awesome profile you've just created. The same goes for anything else that you write in your profile, as a matter of fact. It needs to hook her instantly. It needs to hook her almost immediately. A couple of my favorites that I use all the time that get great responses. Future ex-boyfriend seeking future ex-girlfriend. You must not be boring to read this profile. Seeking wealthy supermodels. Very, very cocky, very effective. And finally, only you can save me from eHarmony. Ideally, what this tagline does is basically sets you up as being somebody with a good sense of humor that really doesn't take online dating too seriously. Now, I can tell you for a fact that just by implementing the 3 tactics that we were talking about, you should be able to get instantly more success online dating. But do you remember that at the very beginning of this video, there was one thing that I said would make or break your online dating experience? Well, it's time for you to find out what that is. And it's so incredibly obvious that you might not have even considered it. Are you ready? Here it is. To catch fish, you must fish in the right pond. That's right, it's that easy. To catch fish, you need to go fishing in the right pond. Now, I personally don't use any of the free dating sites out there. There's too many fake profiles and scammers for my liking. I read somewhere that about 25% of female profiles on free dating sites like Plenty of Fish are actually scammers trying to extort money from guys by pretending to be women. Now, I don't know about you, but my idea of dating doesn't involve a guy named Babatunde from Nigeria on the other end, you know? So what I did over time is I moved away from free sites and I went towards paid sites, and I find that there's a lot less fake profiles because in general you need to put in a valid credit card for a sign up, although most of these sites do offer free trials if you want to try them out too. Not only that, but I did figure out also that you can use multiple sites for different purposes, and I call this my dating stack technique, which we're going to cover next. It involves keeping profiles on multiple sites and then picking and choosing which women you want to date depending on what your dating goals are. Let's move on to talking about my date stacking method, and this is a very simple method that only requires a little bit of forward planning. What I'll do is use different dating sites of different types and schedule dates up to 3 on a given evening and just drop the women that I decide not to meet. Okay, here's one example. I do a lot of dating off cheater sites, and let me tell you, if you want the absolute easiest path to getting laid, go for married women. Okay, they get together with you for a date, you sleep with them very quickly, never hear back from them again unless it's for more sex. It's low effort, low investment, low drama, much more so than with regular girls. Similarly, I also keep one profile on an adult dating site, and the women there are not as pretty as on, let's say, a Match.com, but they are ready to hook up and they want some excitement in their lives. And, you know, with the tools that I have, it's pretty easy to be able to get these women to meet you for a date. And finally, I also use a couple of regular paid dating sites too, in particular Match.com. And I maintain simultaneous accounts on all of these paid sites. I pay about $160 a month in dating memberships. That is a lot of money, but I get the advantage of being able to pull different women depending on what I'm looking for. So that's it, guys. That's the advice that I have for you. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Check out a couple of the dating sites that we suggest below that won't scam you out of your money, and I wish you the best of luck in your online dating experiences.